Give us like 5 more minutes.
I brought a jump bag too, just in case. Glad he didn't say the other thing I was gonna say. We're good? Yeah. All right, well, it is 10:43 to 10:44. We're gonna go ahead and jump back in. Our next school is Southwest Secondary Learning Center. Thank you for bearing with my my glitch in my brain on the break on my confusion. But I wanted to, our agenda will be hearing from the Public Education Department and their evaluation. You'll have 30 minutes for your school comments. Then we'll move into public comment. And so we'll have likely people on Zoom and people in person that may want to provide comment. And then we'll move into the PEC questions and comments as well. And then we'll close out with our vote. Director Chavez, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Commissioners. Chair Brower, welcome to the school. We're glad to have you here. I actually was not a member of the site visit team, unfortunately. I can't wait to visit your school. But I have my esteemed colleague, Cheryl Rowe, who's here to provide the PED evaluation of the school. We know she went on the visit.
Good morning, Chair Brower and Commissioners. My name is Cheryl Rowe, Authorizing Practices Administrator for the Charter Schools Division. I'm here to provide the PED evaluation for Southwest Secondary Learning Center. Southwest Secondary opened its doors in 2001 and was authorized by Albuquerque Public Schools upon opening. They renewed with PEC in 2010, and this is their fourth renewal with PEC. Southwest Secondary offers flexible, self-paced hybrid learning, dual enrollment, allowing students to earn credit at CNM or UNM, and their very popular STEAM Smart Lab. Our team, site leader Dr. Bridget Russell, Rachel Stefosik, and I visited the school on October 5th, 2023. The Charter Schools Division recommends that Southwest Secondary Learning Center be renewed for a term of 5 years with the following condition, which is based on criteria required by law for charter renewal. Condition: Southwest Secondary Learning Center failed to meet or make substantial progress toward achievement of the department's standards of excellence or student performance standards identified in the charter contract. As academic growth has dropped in both ELA and math, and the school has maintained a designation of CSI Comprehensive Support School for the past 2 years. Therefore, Southwest Secondary will demonstrate a record of continuous improvement in academic proficiency and graduation rates over the duration of the charter term. Using their 90-day dash plans and annual ed plan, Southwest Secondary will present their academic progress at the June or July PEC meeting each year of the term. The recommendation is based on the record of the school's performance over the course of the contract term, more recent adult actions to make improvements as described in the school's application, and verification of those actions and improvements during the CSD's renewal and annual visits. According to NM Vista's, academic proficiencies went down slightly from 2021-22 to 2022-23, and the school received a designation of CSI due to graduation rates. However, it has been brought to our attention that the PED does not currently have accurate graduation rates for Southwest Secondary from last year, which are likely affecting their most recent NM Vista's score and designation. And I'm going to address this more when I go over the Part B ratings. On mission goals, Southwest Secondary performance met or exceeded standards for all 3 years that data was available during their contract term. In terms of financial and organizational ratings on the performance framework, the first year of the contract showed room for improvement, but Southwest Secondary quickly rose to the task and improved in all areas. In fact, they have earned meet standard on all indicators for the past 3 years, with the exception of one indicator working to meet standard on attendance and retention. As Lucy and I like to say, you see a lot of green on their performance snapshot for the past 3 years. Southwest Secondary's ratings on Part B of the renewal application are as follows. They met the standards on mission goals, educational program, financial compliance, governance responsibilities, equity, and identity. They demonstrated substantial progress on other performance indicators because of 4B attendance and retention. For student outcomes, this remains unrated. There is a significant discrepancy between the graduation figures that Southwest Secondary has recorded and the figures that appeared on NM Vistas. When 2023 Vistas data was released, Southwest Secondary Learning Center's four-year graduation rate appeared on the site as 16%. The school contacted PED as the school's own data showed a graduation rate of 61%, up from 56% the previous year. The school's data is not currently displayed on the NM Vistas site, as PED's Assessment, Research, Evaluation, and Accountability Division Director, Lynn Vasquez, has been working to clarify the discrepancy. Ms. Vasquez has advised CSD that the 16% rate was not accurate and was caused by an error in STAR's reporting in prior years. These errors were specific to Southwest Secondary. Unfortunately, it is PED policy that STAR's data for prior years cannot be changed. However, Ms. Vasquez and her team are working with the school to ensure that reporting is accurate going forward. Joining us on Zoom today is an associate from Accountability if you have any questions about that. Nonetheless, during our visit, Southwest Secondary leadership acknowledged they are continuously working toward improving proficiency rates and graduation outcomes, and it was evident that the entire team is wholeheartedly committed to supporting students and helping them grow. Every student at the school works closely with an advisor who tracks their progress and provides support and guidance. Weekly progress reports are generated by the school's newly hired academic dean, who is in charge of data collection. The school routinely uses data to identify areas of need, to inform instruction, and to make improvements. Incidentally, we asked Southwest Secondary leaders if they had considered combining with Southwest Preparatory Learning Center since they share the same campus. However, after visiting both campuses, or both schools, I should say, we discovered that the schools are quite unique from one another. One does not necessarily flow right into the other, yet both schools have attracted students and families who have found a just right fit for them. At Southwest Secondary, students seem genuinely happy and engaged and shared that they feel safe and accepted there. The students confirmed that they receive a great deal of support from teachers and advisors. They love the Smart Lab. They were so excited to share their projects with us, and they appreciate the self-paced core curriculum and dual enrollment. A couple of students who graduated from Southwest Secondary liked it so much there that they have returned to teach there. One is a science teacher, another is the Smart Lab teacher and dual credit program coordinator. And I don't know if there are others, but I thought that was pretty cool. It was a delightful visit. The place has a hum of productivity, a flow that works, and I saw a lot of smiling faces on those high schoolers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rowe. We're going to move on to the next part of our agenda, which is the school's opportunity for comment and presentation. So you'll have 30 minutes. Do we have everything teed up in terms of multimedia? Okay, great. And then if you don't mind, as you share for the first time, if you can share your name, spell it out for us for our court recorder, just so they have that on record. You do not have to, like many schools, spell your name every single time you talk. Just the first time will do. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioner Brower and and other esteemed members of the Public Education Commission. I'm Eileen Johnson, EILEEN, Vice President of the GC Council. This is Chris Moore, Assistant Business Director of K-12, Anthony Padilla, General Council Member, Deborah Burns, current Secretary of the GC and former President of the GC, and Lisa Mora, Executive Director, former Vice Principal and former teacher. And then online, we should have.
Real sorry, I know you're doing your greatest with the microphone. If you could kind of almost eat it, that'd be great. So that people
Okay.
online, yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds so much better. Thanks. I know it's awkward, but it would be helpful for us.
Okay. Online on Zoom, we should have the President, Michael Hamill. He's traveling for work and should have written a letter of support for rechartering. We also have a handful of students and let's see, and we could have another General Council Member, Danielle Parker.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Mora, the Executive Director. That's LISAMORA. And we're going to start off with a video to let you learn a little bit more about our school.
Southwest Secondary Learning Center opened in 2001 as a tuition-free charter school offering students an alternative to the traditional high school classroom. With just 15 students that first year, SSLC was one of the first charter schools in New Mexico, blazing a trail that would change the educational landscape in Albuquerque. Fast forward a little over 2 decades, and SSLC has remained an innovative leader through its proven combination of a small school environment, hands-on STEAM-focused curriculum, blend of classroom and computer-based lessons, flexible scheduling, and dual enrollment opportunities with CNM and UNM. Serving students in grades 9 through 12, the teachers and staff of SSLC work to make the dream of walking across the stage at graduation a reality for each of them, well equipping them for the next chapter in their lives, be it college or career. Every student entering SSLC is paired with a sponsored teacher throughout their educational career who do more than answer questions and help with homework. They are advocates and partners in a student's education, working with them to establish goals and turn ambitions into reality.
You start off the school year by meeting as a family with the sponsored teacher to design your child's year. What's their schedule going to look like? What classes are they going to take?
It's an integral part of our school. The students have an adult that they know that is, looking out for them. There's a student-adult relationship that they have somebody that's every week checking on their progress.
I really look forward to the progress reports daily or weekly because it really shows that my sponsored teacher is looking after me and really wants me to be on pace and get it done.
Our blended education model, with its combination of direct in-person and tech-based self-guided educational components, fosters flexibility, allowing students to engage with course materials at their own pace and convenience. All learning is aligned with common core standards in math, science, English, and history. At SSLC, we understand the needs of busy students and their families. That's why we offer flexible scheduling, in which online learning can take place at our campus, where subject experts and sponsor teachers keep students on pace to meet their goals. Or learning can take place at home with real-time progress monitoring and clear communication between students, teachers, and parents.
I've had great communication. I feel like we're family here. I do. I know that when there's an issue, I can email or call and I have someone on the other end that's going to help me.
Whether they want to get ahead on their work, change up their day-to-day routines, accommodate a part-time job, or fast-track their graduation, students have 24/7 access to the curriculum, meaning they can study anytime or anywhere.
I have my own life. I have a job. I have sports. I'll have an early morning class. So for me to be able to work school around my schedule instead of having to work my schedule around school, that really helped me.
Students can move at their own speed and they can choose what class they want to work on each day. It's not like you're going to have math every Monday at 8 o'clock. You get to pick what subject you want to work on at which time. And if you are understanding the content, you can keep moving. You're not waiting on the rest of the class to catch up with you. But on the other hand, if you're struggling with something, you can rewatch the lectures, you can go get help from a teacher, and you can slow down until you really understand it before moving on.
In a world that's constantly changing, it has never been more important for students to graduate from high school ready to navigate the challenges of college and career. Today's employers clearly need a workforce with skills that go well beyond the basics. A workforce with a practical understanding of STEM skills. Southwest Secondary Learning Center offers students an opportunity to explore career skills and technical education in a fun, hands-on learning environment we call our Smart Lab. In the Smart Lab, we've built upon STEM by adding the element of the arts, encompassing subjects such as visual arts, music, literature, and design. By integrating creativity and artistic thinking into the technical and scientific subjects, we foster a more holistic and well-rounded approach to learning.
It is honestly just a game changer, to say the least. It has state-of-the-art technology. It provides opportunities that you wouldn't normally get from most other schools. Like it has 3D printers, it has laser engravers, it has studio cameras, photography. Like it has where you can program games. You can learn code. Like it has anything and everything.
Students work in small groups to complete projects, practicing effective communication, problem solving, and teamwork. There are over 175 projects to choose from, all designed by our experienced teachers.
It's really a robust CTE program that students are really excited about. They have a lot of fun. It's kind of our social class as well. They get to work with each other and collaborate. They present their projects at the end of each 4-week cycle and get to show everybody what they've done.
I also did the new Smart Lab this year where you got to get certified in any online industry. So I got certified in Microsoft. I'm a Microsoft specialist, so I got to graduate high school with some certifications. It's pretty great.
The Smart Lab encourages students to try the projects that interest them, whether those projects tie into a career interest or just sound fun to work on. Taking chances, making mistakes, and learning from failed attempts are all part of the learning process. Engaging in student activities provides a dynamic and enriching dimension beyond traditional classroom learning. They provide a platform for students to explore diverse interests, encouraging self-discovery and personal growth. Sports, clubs, and community service contributes to social development by fostering friendships, enhancing communication skills, and instilling a strong sense of community. Pep rallies unite students, teachers, and staff in a collective celebration of school pride and community spirit, which contribute to a vibrant school culture. In athletics, SSLC competes against other charter schools as part of the Albuquerque Charter School League.
We have a robust sports program, and we're winning state titles every year in basketball and volleyball, girls and boys. We have social activities. We still have dances. A lot of students don't realize that a charter school has the same things that your regular big, large high school would have.
I'm really thankful that the school provides those opportunities, because otherwise, a lot of the kids are more in their shell. They're to themselves, but then when they join the activities like esports, which is where you just play games competitively, student council, like any activity, it always brings the kids together.
Students at SSLC can finish high school while pursuing degree credits at CNM or UNM.
We have a really robust dual credit program where we have students all the time that graduate with, if not an associate degree, a good jump on their college education, and they get the opportunity to explore college classes and find maybe their passion for the rest of their life while they're still in high school.
A huge opportunity for them to start to learn what they're interested in, get their prerequisites done, and then when they're done with college, we have kids that have already gotten their certificates or associates, and they can start working out of high school, which is a huge advantage.
Imagine test driving college-level academics while still receiving the support of SSLC's teachers and resources. What's more, the program is also subsidized by the state, so tuition and books are free while a student remains enrolled at SSLC. One of the biggest advantages of Southwest Secondary Learning Center is its small school environment, which offers students a more personalized and supportive educational experience.
It's difficult for a child to fall through the cracks here. Every teacher knows every student's name, and we meet in PLCs twice a month where we discuss particular students, and maybe so-and-so is struggling with this. Have you noticed that? And it might be academic, it might be social, it might be behavioral, but because of our small environment, we're really able to keep an eye on our kids and support them in all kinds of ways.
I began to realize this is a really special academic environment for kids. And, just looking at the graduating class just last year, it was just every kid was a remarkable story walking across that stage of accomplishments and talents and giftings and aspirations.
So I think we're like a hidden gem that no one knows about. I've been here 22 years. I think this is an amazing school. We have opportunities for students to be successful academically, but also socially.
At Southwest Secondary Learning Center, you can see our success in our students' stories. You can see it in the data that validates our approach of a personalized educational experience in a small school setting, flexible scheduling, and a state-of-the-art smart lab that gives our students a unique chance to find what sparks their imaginations and fuels their passions. You can see our success in our dual credit program that accelerates our students' academic and career pathways. And you can see it on the faces of our graduates as they walk across the stage, fully prepared and ready to face the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. Southwest Secondary.
Well, hold on a second. Thank you for watching the video. The rest of our presentation will focus on some of the things the school has accomplished over the term of the charter, and then of course try to address the questions that the PEC provided to us. Lucy, it should have just been the next slide. There we go. All right. So it's been a busy few years. We've been able to do a lot over the last several years. Especially during COVID, we've had the ability to provide both in-person and remote academic programs. We finalized a lease purchase agreement for our building, and so we're now in a publicly owned facility. We also procured portable buildings that we've put to work right away. We put that additional space to use with direct instruction classes to support that transition to online coursework, which is a challenge. We also, because we have that online learning environment, we implemented something called Secure Access, which locks tests. While students still have access to their curriculum 24/7, the Secure Access requires that they take their assessments on campus for academic integrity. We also created an academic dean position to begin looking deeply at the school and collect and analyze our data. One of the first things that Ms. Dixon began looking at is the number of courses that our students are completing for credit. When she began tracking this in the 2018-2019 school year, in May of 2019, we found that only 67% of our courses were being completed for credit. We implemented a number of changes, and that has grown to 91% of our courses being completed in May 23. So that's a 24% increase, which we're really proud of. This chart just shows you the growth in that course progress completion over the last several years. You see the 67% there on the left. You see a jump there in 2020. That is the COVID year when everyone received pass-fail because of the school shutdown. But you can see that it's continued to grow over the term of our contract. We also began tracking subpopulation data and not just the school as a whole. So here you can see, I guess the numbers are a little hard to read, but we did have growth across the board in our subpopulations as well. We saw tremendous growth in, well, I put that back in the wrong place. Sorry. We saw tremendous growth in students with disabilities, in our 504 population, in our ELL population, all across the board. Every subpopulation was improving in the number of courses they completed for credit, which of course contributes to their graduation progress overall. A couple of years ago, we engaged with some help for strategic planning to help us really dig deep into the data that we had at school to do a needs assessment and identify where we needed to improve, but not just where. We created action steps to work on how we were going to do that. We did meet or exceed our mission-specific goals each year of the contract term. We offered a STEM team that won the Governor's STEM Challenge 3 out of the 4 years they competed. We've seen tremendous growth in our extracurricular offerings for students, which promotes their sense of belonging to the school, their social emotional wellness, and their re-engagement into learning. We had a National Merit Scholarship finalist. We've demonstrated really strong financial controls. We've had very few audit findings, which is a big win for the school. And we've implemented a school-wide PBIS system, which is positive behavioral interventions and supports. Another success that you heard about in the video is our dual enrollment program, which we're really quite proud of. When we began tracking the data in 2018, from then through this fall here of 2023, our students have completed 858 dual enrollment courses over that term. Currently, right now, we have 24% of our eligible students, which is 10th grade and above. 24% of them are taking a dual enrollment class. 20% of our senior class is currently taking a dual enrollment class. And I do want to point out that they're not all college-bound students. We've had students graduate with certificates in diesel mechanics, in auto mechanics. She didn't actually finish the dental hygiene. She was really close, but she got most of her dental hygiene training while in high school. And so we've also had students working towards an associate degree, but we've had others enter trade routes and graduate high school with certificates from CNM and ready to enter the workforce. Well, that's a lot of successes, but it's certainly not been without challenge. A big obstacle that the school is facing is we've had declining enrollment, which also comes with declining funding. You heard a bit about our graduation rate decline and our CSI designation. We saw drops in academic proficiency in both reading and math. We doubled the number of students that we support that have disabilities. We've seen a substantial increase in our economically disadvantaged population. That Attendance for Success Act, those tiered interventions are tough. We're working on it, and we're really trying to get students in school and engaged in school, but it's a challenge. We transitioned to a new business management group. And then, of course, we've transitioned to new leadership. This is my first year as director of the school. We just wanted to point out that we've had some pretty significant shifts in our demographics over the term of the contract. Again, we saw a 32% increase in economically disadvantaged students, a 10% increase in students with disabilities, which doubled that population, an increase in ELL and Native American populations as well. Now here's the big one. In 2022, with the release of Vistas, Southwest Secondary received a CSI grad designation. In 2021, our published graduation rate was 56%. In 2022, it was incorrectly published at 16%. Fortunately, we've been able to work with the PED. They've been very responsive in looking at that and helping to understand exactly why it happened. I've just recently had that question answered, which indicates that we didn't properly validate the data when we had the opportunity. I can't explain why that happened, but we're working in moving forward to do it correctly. I have another meeting scheduled with them next week to understand exactly what happened so that we can prevent that from happening again. Now, we do know that the 16% is incorrect. As we dug into that shared accountability unit report, there were 89 students listed on it, and we found that 55% of those students were incorrectly coded as still enrolled. Now, they are coded correctly in our student information system. So again, we're looking internally at exactly what happened there on how the wrong data ended up on, being reported to the state. But 32 of those students, or 36% of those on the report, have graduated. 17 students, or 19% of them, were withdrawn. And some of them had withdrawn back in 2018, 2019, which would have been their freshman year. Once we made those corrections and recalculated the data using PED's formula, it gives us a graduation rate of about 60%. It hovers between 58% and 64%, depending on what happens with those withdrawn students. Obviously, if they left New Mexico Public Education, they should not count negatively as non-grad accountability units, and we can't identify what happened to all of those, and that's the reason for the range. Now, while 60% is obviously not where we want it to be, it is moving in the right direction from 56% the year prior. So we wanted to look a little deeper at that. And this year's current 2024 cohort and our group of seniors that we have right now, if we've had them for 4 years, if we've had 4 years of impact on those kids, 80% of them are on track to graduate this year. If we've had them for 3 years, 80% of them are on track to graduate. We've had them for 2 years, it's 75%. And if it's their first year with us, 60% of them are on track to graduate. As we looked a little further into that, This is identified with our current students by cohort. So if you start over there on the right-hand side, that's this year's freshmen, the class of 2027. Well, right now, 100% of them are on track to graduate because we haven't finished the first semester yet. Obviously, we know that not every student is going to pass every class, and so that number will go down. But right now, it's at 100%. For our sophomores, the class of 2026, 85% of them are on track to graduate. For our juniors, 75% of them are on track to graduate. And then for our seniors overall, the cohort of 2024, 75% of them are on track to graduate. Then we have 5 fifth-year seniors. All of those are on track to graduate this year. And in fact, we have one that's graduating in December. She just finished up her coursework. And then we have 1 6th year and 1 7th year that are both on track to graduate this year. So obviously we know our grad rate needs help. So what are we doing about it? Well, first of all, we've increased our parent engagement. We have always done weekly progress updates to families so that they can see how their student is performing. And we've added in, as part of our DASH plan, increased parent engagement. Families are now receiving, in addition to that weekly email, they get a monthly outreach from their sponsor teacher. It might be a telephone call, it might be an in-person conference, or even over Zoom. But we're able to stay in touch with our families, make sure they know how their student is performing so that we can partner with them on making sure kids are on track to graduate. We also added support classes in both English and math, which tend to be the subjects students struggle the most with, that puts them behind in graduation progress. We do send potential failure notices mid-semester. So again, families know, hey, your kid's at risk of not finishing this class, which would put them behind in graduation progress. We hold next step plan conferences, of course, with our families every spring with students and parents together to look at their progress towards graduation and to map out their next steps to make sure that they're on track. And we will continue that course progress analysis. We do that bi-weekly so that we can identify students that are in need and implement interventions as quickly as possible to hopefully help them turn things around. Well, and it's not just the grad rate. Our academic proficiency has fallen as well. Now, our science scores have improved. We went from 48% proficient in 22 to 55% in 23, but our math SAT scores decreased. So what we've done to address that is we've implemented some direct instruction support classes for Algebra 1 and for geometry. Because of our blended environment, our students do take those core classes online, but we have an in-person support class that meets in a small group to go over difficult concepts, practice hands-on lessons and different strategies to work through the material. We also we found Algebra 1 to be particularly challenging for students coming in from middle school. So we added a traditional model algebra class. It's kind of what we call flipped. We teach it in person, they meet every day, but they have access to Edgenuity online as well. So they retain that 24/7 access where they can watch lectures and practice things to make sure that they're moving forward and understanding the content. And we also added a support class that's available to all of our students for remediation of basic skills. Again, especially coming out of COVID, we found that a lot of students lacked the foundational skills they needed to move forward in Algebra 1. So we've added this class. It meets twice weekly. And again, it's in a small group where they have some hands-on support to go back and work on those foundational skills. Students are scheduled into that class by teacher recommendation. When we can see that they're struggling with something, we just move them into that support class for the additional help. And the reading scores went down as well. Again, we've implemented direct instruction support classes. We decided to focus on the 9th grade classes to build a strong foundation as students move forward. Again, the reading is difficult when you have an online curriculum. So the small group allows time for group discussion, for digging into concepts. And this year, again, as part of our DASH plan, we decided to focus on developing essays. We found that as we looked at the data that one reason students were struggling with English is they were avoiding those essays and they were not performing well. So we've put all of those into this ninth grade class where students are really working on developing their writing skills, which we're hoping will create a strong foundation as they move forward with their English classes. Something else that's new for us this year is we're implementing observation, feedback, and coaching cycles for our teachers. I mentioned that this is my first year as director, and as a new administrator, I am part of the New Mexico RISE program with Priority Schools Bureau. So one of the things I've learned there is this coaching cycle, which provides more consistent observation for teachers rather than one big observation a year or two, going into more frequently to work with them. It's quicker observations with feedback coaching conferences within a day or two following, where we can work on one small action step. And of course, the idea behind that is that with more frequent feedback and with little tweaks all throughout the year, that will compound and we'll see increased growth over the course of the year. It's new for us. It's new for me. So we're learning together, but I'm really confident that this is going to make a big difference for us. And then one other thing that we've done is we added some English and math support classes that are available to all grades. As you heard in the video, one of the great things about our program is that you don't have to do math every Monday at 8 o'clock. You get to choose when you want to work on something. And one of the bad things about our program is that you don't have to do math every Monday at 8 o'clock. And so we find that students that may have some reservations about a particular class, that they tend to avoid that class. And so by implementing these classes, it requires students to work on that class. It combats the subject avoidance. It gives them a small group environment to work where they have the direct support of the teacher, and it meets twice weekly. And that's new this year, so we'll hope to have data later on about how successful that was. Well, we don't just look at our course progress data. We also use the NWEA, which is a nationally normed assessment for our short cycle tests. This fall, when we took the NWEA, 30% of our students scored proficient or advanced in math, and 38% of them scored proficient or advanced in reading. We do not, however, focus on just the overall scores of the school. We really want to focus on their individual growth and their scores there as well. We recognize student growth through our positive behavioral support system. We hold awards assemblies, and students are recognized for scoring proficient or advanced, but they're also recognized if they met their growth goal, which incentivizes everybody and celebrates their learning and celebrates their growth. So this chart just shows you the students that met their growth goal over the last couple of years. So this is the NWEA in math, and you can see that we went from 67% of students meeting their growth goal in 2022 to 77% meeting their growth goal in 2023. That's for math. The next one's for reading, where we went from 50% of the students meeting their growth goal to 67% of them meeting their growth goal. One of the questions asked about our English language learner progress, because it was masked in Vistas. We did have 10 students last year that we tested. 5 of them had attended SSLC for 2 or more years. 4 of those 5 showed growth on their access test, with 1 of them scoring proficient. We had 5 students that were new to SSLC last year, and we are going to have a smaller population this year as 4 of them have graduated. This tells a little bit more about our Smart Lab, and if you wouldn't mind skipping to the next slide because I'm running out of time. We implemented a professional certification class that you heard a little bit about, and we're so excited about it because these credentials go right on a student's resume. It is not us saying that they're proficient in this. It's Microsoft or Adobe or MakerBot saying that the students are proficient. And the first year we ran it, we had 6 students earn 11 credentials. And this year, as we open that up a bit, so far this semester, we've had 19 students earn 23 credentials. These are just pictures of those kids. And if you'd skip to the last one, please, Lucy. Just go to the next one, please. Thank you. So where are we looking? Sorry, go back one. Where are we looking to go in the future? We're working on increasing our enrollment. We're actively working with a marketing company on rebranding and clarifying our targets and our objectives. We're working on increasing student retention. We're using conservative budgeting so that we have financial stability. We're continuing strategic planning. We're implementing those regular observation and feedback coaching cycles. We are coordinating with this other school we share the building with Southwest Preparatory on implementing a school lunch program because we don't currently have one. We're developing our new gifted identification. We're hoping to renew our Cognia accreditation this spring, and we are in the process of achieving NCAA accreditation right now. And of course, we hope to exit CSI status and even improve to a spotlight school. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're going to move into public comments. Missy, do we have anyone online that signed up or has their hand raised?
If you'd like to make public comment on Zoom, please raise your digital hand.
I see somebody in there right now.
Hi, can you see us?
Yeah, if you don't mind, you can just introduce yourselves and then spell your names for us, and then you can jump into your comment. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Amelia Real. I'm a Smart Lab instructor, and I have 5 students here who would like to speak, please. Starting with Antoinette Reason, Southwest graduate.
Yes, hello, my name is Antoinette. I am Antoinette Reason, ANTOINETTEREAZIN. I'm a recent valedictorian graduate here at Southwest, and I am proud to say that every single aspect of the school has truly prepared me for life. During my high school career, I did take part of almost everything that the school has to offer, all the extracurriculars, the dual credit, and that was something that I took advantage of. During my high school career, I got 52 credits at CNM and a certificate in the medical office field. And having a jump start to college while still in high school was a huge key to my college success. I mean, it really truly prepared me for what it would be like to take college on full time. Like this semester, I took 5 classes and I graduated with all A's, or not graduated, I finished with all A's. And if it wasn't for Southwest, I would have struggled profusely. And during my high school career, I took part in sports, extracurriculars such as the Governor's STEM Challenge, Student Council, and other clubs. Being a part of those extracurriculars really allowed me to connect with the students and create a multitude of sentimental memories with the students, with the teachers and everyone, which I believe is very, very crucial to mine and other social development, especially after the pandemic. And being a part of those extracurriculars and all the classwork and everything, it really prepared me and it taught me new skills such as organization, communication, time management, and so forth. So like ton of skills that are very key to success in life. And yeah, that's everything I have.
Thank you.
We now have Mateo Archibek.
Hello, I am Mateo Archibek, MateoArchibeque. So I'm going to be talking about extracurricular activities that I've participated in. So here we have Model UN and Youth in Government, the government clubs, where we participate in mock government practices in Santa Fe and get to write our own bills, participate as lawyers or judges, and participate in mock UN debates. I've also done esports, played League of Legends, Rocket League, and Super Smash Bros. I am a 2-time second vice president of the Student Council and a 2-time member of the STEM team. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now have Mercedes Largo.
Hi, I'm Mercedes Largo, MERCEDSLARGO. I have been with Southwest for about a year, and I had 7 classes, which was stressful, but I got through it. because I had the support from the teachers in every classroom, support lab and main lab. I had taken advantage of the flexibility of my time on the classes, especially when I had outside activities. I am also in academic clubs as well. I was in Model UN and Youth and Government, which was actually pretty fun. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Marisol Rodriguez, MARISOL And I'm currently in 11th grade. I've been with Southwest since 4th grade. So it's been a really good school to me. And what I like about the school is their dual credit. I'm currently taking CNM and I like it because all your college classes are paid for. So it could really help you get ahead on your career and your certificate. So you don't have to stress like in the future if money is a problem because college is very expensive. So I've currently taken 5 classes at CNM. I knocked out my math and reading requirements to really get a head start in my my associates in business, and the support here is really great for really anything CNM wise. The teachers are really great. They know how to work with CNM systems and could help you sign up for fall term, spring term, and could help you if you're falling behind, how to contact CNM advisors, where to get your CNM books, how to get there, your CNM permits. So they're really helpful with CNM wise, and that's why I like Southwest. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last we have Noelle Hansen. She's going to read a statement from one of our remote students, Kaylee Valley. It's CAILEY. Last name is VALLEY.
Okay, so as mentioned, I'm representing one of my peers, and she writes, "To whom it may concern, I'd like to briefly talk about how Southwest Secondary was one of the greatest things for me in my education. The school helped me tremendously when I had no motivation to continue my education after such a poor experience in the public school system. I've had the opportunity to work full-time and pursue other goals of mine while also being able to finish high school education on my own time. SSLC offers an alternative learning path that I've thrived on, and I believe many other students would as well if given the chance. I'm beyond thankful for the time I had here and hope the school will continue to grow as well as give students the opportunity to thrive in their education." And that is end of quote.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Missy, anyone else on Zoom?
No.
Anyone in the galley here who would like to speak on behalf of the school or this provide comment? All right, we're going to conclude the public comments and we're going to move into the PEC questions and comments as well. Commissioner Beck.
Thank you, Chair Brower, for looking right.
You noticed. I've only turned left most times, so.
He only looks left.
Thank you guys for all coming up. I obviously have been to your school since you're in my world. I know a lot of the commissioners have questions, so I'll try to be brief. But I have a lot of concerns. I was pretty shocked when the Vista numbers came out a month ago or a month and a half ago. And, you know, I don't have to tell you, you know, they are. And I see that you've, in your presentation, done a lot to address some of those deficiencies. One of the concerns I have when looking at it, and when I look at your mission goals, you're very, very, very focused. And when I walk through your school, you're very focused, and I would almost say overly focused, on the smart lab. If you look at your numbers in terms of the proficiencies, you know, needless to say, you're 11 points behind APS and ELA, 15 behind in math, and you're 20 ahead in science. Both of your mission goals were directly focused and narrowly focused, from what I could see, on the proficiency of the smart lab. So that makes me concerned that the over focus, and I obviously could see it, and of course that's where they were coming from for their talk, the kids. The energy that's focused on that smart lab might challenge the focus that's on the traditional academic parts that are so critical. I saw, and I read in your Part B, and you put it in the presentation, the improved growth in the NWEA reports for math and English. And I'd like you to speak, you know, a little, just briefly, on how you reconcile those growth rates that you have in the NWEA with the truly challenged numbers you have on the VISTA report. I'd like to hear that real quick.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Beck. Excuse me, I will do my best to address that. You're right, Smart Lab has been a really big part of our program and centers on the future readiness for college and career, but that also encompasses the dual enrollment, and they have to be proficient in math and reading to be ready for college and career. So we are working, you saw that we're taking steps to address that. One possible explanation I have for the discrepancy in the proficiency scores versus the NWEA is that our proficiency scores come solely from the SAT test, which only 11th graders take. And the NWEA is reflective of the entire student body. So I will tell you honestly, I haven't dug into the data surrounding that very deeply. But at the surface level there, if only 11th graders are taking that test, it's not representing the entire body. And as we're seeing growth from the interventions or the changes that we've made with those the direct support classes, I would expect that we will see those SAT scores come up as well. With seeing growth in the NWEA, that's indicative that we're going to see growth in those SAT scores as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So your academic dean, is that a full-time job or is that a part-time job, academic dean?
It's a supplemental job. She's one of our instructors, and I apologize that she's not here today. There's an emergency. Otherwise, she'd be able to speak directly to you.
I get it. I get it. And then I saw that, so are students required to be in person, or can they opt to be totally online without any direct instruction on campus?
That's a great question. We have both programs, sir. We do offer a fully remote program. However, it comes with a contract. When we meet at the beginning of the semester with every family and design their student's year. At that time, if a family is interested in a remote program, they have a specific reason for it. We talk about the requirements of that. They do have to sign a contract that states that they will maintain progress in their courses, that they will come to campus for all testing events. So they must come and take the NWE assessment and other tests. And they have to, of course, take their cumulative exams on campus. They receive the same level of monitoring. They get weekly progress updates. They still have that monthly conference with the sponsor teacher. And we have, if they're not in person, they can come in person at any time. We call it an extra, where they're not scheduled, but they can come in for some instruction if they need it. We also offer, we call it a helpline, where they can ask for have an assignment reset through email. But if they're struggling with something and they're a remote student and they would like to meet with a teacher, They send in that email or call, and we set up a Zoom for them so that they can meet directly with a content teacher and maybe work through that math concept that has them stumped or whatever it is they need assistance on.
Okay, thanks. I saw, in all the stuff I was looking at and analyzing, I saw that 11% of the students are fully remote. Would that be
Yes, sir.
correct?
This year, 11% of them are fully remote, and we do have a few students that are fully at CNM as well. They're not taking Edgenuity classes. All of their credits are coming from CNM, so we don't see them a lot.
Have you been able to analyze their testing results versus the ones that are in person? Have you been able to look at that?
No, I have not. I have data on their course progress analysis, and they're keeping pace. The in-person and the remote students have been really tight together this year, which told us that the students that are in the remote program were well chosen for that because they're keeping pace with the in-person students. But I have not analyzed the difference in their test scores.
Okay, I know a lot of the commissioners have questions, so I'm going to try to be brief. My last question, you alluded to your PLC structure, and you said that they meet twice a month. Is that right?
Yes, sir. They meet every other Friday.
Okay. That concerns me, that they're not getting more PLC involvement. That's a concern to me, for sure. So explain to me how your PLC is structured, because that, I see that as a challenge.
The PLC includes both general ed and special education instructors across the school. Because we have one content teacher in each area, it's not divided by grade level or by content. It's everybody together at once. We do look at the course progress data and see overall how the students are doing, and then we dig into more specific students. We also call that an MLSS meeting. We assess individual students. Maybe we've had a report that a specific student has something going on at home, or we're noticing that they're becoming increasingly resistant to math, or whatever the case may be, that individual student is addressed during the PLC. We keep notes about that, and there are records for it. And then we can identify maybe this student is falling behind and we want to put them into that math support class. Or maybe we need to schedule an additional conference with their family to discuss concerns that we have.
Okay, so when you meet every other Friday, how long is that meeting?
It varies, an hour to hour and a half, sometimes longer.
And so you meet as a total group, the whole staff together?
Most of the staff.
Most of the staff.
Yes, sir. The Smart Lab teachers are not always involved in that. They try to be. And occasionally we have one of our special education staff members that can't be present because they have an IEP to attend. And I am sometimes present and sometimes not.
Okay. Do you have a teacher mentoring program?
Yes, sir. We do have a mentoring program for our beginning teachers. They have a checklist of items, monthly conferences, and to make sure that they're learning about the school culture. First of all, the obvious orientation things and procedural things, but that they're receiving support. And we do have one first year
For a period
teacher.
of a year, for a period, do you have it organized structurally, or?
Yeah, definitely their first year, and then it can continue while they're a level 1 teacher.
And you have like organized feedback and forms, et cetera?
Yes, sir. We have forms for that, and we keep records for it.
Thanks. I might ask a few more questions, but thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gibson.
For the presentation. I have a couple of questions for now. So I think I need to see how your blended learning is really working in terms of how many core curricular classes do students take live? Is it
Our entire core curriculum is online with the Edgenuity
online?
program.
Well, yeah, I meant in
We have support classes. Now, it's online, but students come to campus. They come, you saw pictures of the main lab. It's like a very large computer lab. So you see students working on the computer, taking notes, watching lectures, completing assignments, but they're in person on campus with our teachers in the same room. So while they're working online, if they have a question, if there's something that they're struggling with, they want support on, they go over to the teacher and they get help with that from a live teacher one-on-one.
But what about direct instruction live in a classroom? How much of that actually takes place out? I'm not talking the lab. I get the whole lab setup, but how much live and direct instruction is occurring in front of a real person?
Okay, sorry if I misunderstood. The traditional algebra class is a live instruction class that's taught in person every day. The rest of our classes, they have support classes for Algebra 1 and for geometry. So though they're taking it online, they go once a week for a direct instruction portion of that, where they work directly with a teacher in a classroom in a smaller group to work through difficult concepts that are coming up in the instruction that week and try different things in person. The English support classes also meet once a week, but that is only for 9th graders at this time. Oh, and then of course the support lab, which services our students with disabilities. They're also using the Edgenuity program, but they have some content that, according to their IEP accommodations, that is reduced content. They don't reduce the standards. They just take out some of the repetitive content to allow time for direct instruction that they receive in the support lab. Did I answer your question, Beth?
Did. I mean, this isn't how I visualize blended learning, to be perfectly honest, because I think the beauty of blended learning is the enrichment that takes place with students when they can, they're getting the basics online and then they're coming in with direct instruction with a teacher who enriches that curriculum with the students. And I think that truly helps to reinforce the especially the skills of communication that students often lack. So to me, this is less of a blended learning model than most other blended learning models. And I think that could speak to why your scores have been the way they are. But I did have another question. What about profession? Now, Commissioner Beck talked about PLCs. Well, what about actual professional development? And taking so can you speak to me about how you've actually taken your deep dives into the data and then created professional development around what you've discovered from those deep dives of the data?
Sure. Thank you for the question. While we do analyze that, and we've also and worked on that as a whole group, we have, as I mentioned, we have 2 math teachers, but we have 1 content teacher in each area. We have had school-wide professional development on things like verbal de-escalation and ELL strategies for supporting English learners in the classroom, but we haven't had specific professional development around English. We do offer individualized professional development, like our English teacher just went to a conference on engaging students specifically in English, but I don't have a specific professional development I can speak to, Commissioner Gibson.
That's a little worrisome for me, that when scores were particularly low and that you've mentioned that you've done deep dives into this data, and that to me, there's this disconnect with, well, we've kind of looked at what's happening, but then we're not doing anything because I appreciate the fact that teachers are allowed to, at times, choose a professional development that they want to go to. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to help the, the school as a whole. I think the school needs to come up with a plan and to move forward as a whole body and develop strategies and then create the supports that are going to help the school implement those strategies to move the school forward. There just appears to be, once again, that disconnect with, we know what's wrong, but we haven't taken that step forward to really work on something. And that speaks, and I worked in a high school, and I understand the difficulties with like a PLC being able to meet every day. That's, we had to create the schedules, but we did it at least once a week. And there were opportunities for smaller groups to still meet, and we had those scheduled in. It's challenging to me for any school, let alone a school that needs to really create targeted supports to have that little opportunity. And although I support the notion that at the PLCs, you're talking about behavioral issues, which you identified, but it goes beyond that with a school that needs to create strategies to help support growth. And that's not what I'm hearing at this point in time. And I'll yield my time at this moment. to
May I
other
speak to
people.
that?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Commissioner Gibson, a lot of that work has been through the strategic planning. I didn't identify it specifically as professional development, but it's been through strategic planning. We did work with someone to help us with that process where we were looking at that, and then we met in groups, we created program changes to address the loss in proficiency and to address some of those direct instruction classes I talked about were created from the strategic planning. I think Ms. Burns would like to add on to that, if that's all right.
Yeah, but, and I appreciate that, but when you change, once again, that talks to, well, we changed the program, but where's the support for the teachers when you're changing the program? Where's the professional development that's occurring? Because, well, we identified once again, we had a problem. So we changed the program, but now that you're changing the program, we need to support the teachers with helping the students. So that's the disconnect I'm getting at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ingham.
Just one quick thought from a non-educator. It feels like you have a teacher that a student engages with, at least that's what it was on the video, that you have one person that follows that student throughout their time at your school, right?
Yes, a sponsored teacher, sir.
Sponsor teacher, right. And that sponsor teacher would be one of the core subjects. But then during the time when they're working on, and since everybody's working on different things, if that student is having a struggle with a different subject, and I just can imagine students not being too quick to engage with another teacher. They may develop a relationship with their sponsor teacher, but other teachers may struggle to engage with them. And what it sounded like to me is that it's all on the student to engage with whatever subject matter teacher there is. I can imagine that being a struggle for less outgoing students to engage in those things, and that it feels like to me that those content teachers need to have a personal relationship also with each student so they can know, because without having their eye contact with those students, they're not going to know if that student's dodging or just uncomfortable or just not willing to ask the question, stand up and ask the question. So that's just an observation.
Thank you, Commissioner Ingram. And you are correct that there are some students that would struggle to reach out to a different teacher that they didn't feel as connected to. However, most of our students do have relationships with most of the teachers, again, because it's a small environment. It's hard to go unnoticed. And it's not completely dependent on the student to reach out for help. We also have our sponsored teachers. If the sponsor is in charge of this particular group of students, but if they see that this particular student is really stuck on that English essay, then they will go talk to the English teacher and say, can you reach out to this student and help them with that English essay, or of course they'll help themselves. So we use those weekly progress updates to look at where students are struggling, and the sponsored teachers also reach out directly to the students. They come and get them and say, hey, let's come work on that science. You're falling behind on that science test. Let's get that one done today. Do you have questions? So it's both, sir. The students can come up and ask for help, and they can ask for help from any teacher. But the sponsored teachers do also seek them out. And that's one of the things that's discussed at those PLCs is I noticed so-and-so's doing this, and what can we do about it?
Thank you. I just want to make sure that the record shows that Vice Chair Burt stepped out for a few minutes. He's still rooting for him, though.
We waited. I missed that. You were waiting for Commissioner Burt to return?
Not waiting for anyone, Commissioner. I just wanted to make sure that the records show.
Oh, I see what I got it. I mean, I usually raise my hand early. I'm just waiting. I see we have people online, and I did have a quick question. Who's David Winjam? Is he with your school?
I believe he works for the PED.
Okay, I just saw that.
There's a
name
question.
up here.
There's a question that we have about the assessment, the graduation
right.
rate. If we wanted to ask David any question, I think he'd be able to answer that.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you. Okay, so all righty then. Smart Lab, kudos. Kids love it. Same thing at the prep, the Southwest Preparatory, and it seems like that's the kids are super into that. And anytime we can provide something like that and make where it gives them relevance, they get to use their creativity, they get to interact with others, is great. I echo Commissioner Gibson's concerns about this seems to be more of an online school with the occasional drop-in than the actual hybrid model. I say that, so I have a bias, and really not much anymore, and it's because of, and it's all public record. I mean, Tracy Phyllis and the Taos Academy, and the way they ran it up there, she really made me think differently, opened my whole world in terms of what hybrid can be. And then I visited the school, and I've spoken to her a lot, and I represent the North. I'm here all the way to the Colorado border. There's nothing in Colfax, pretty much except the Four Corners. And so I share that concern with Commissioner Gibson. As I'm sure you're aware, we have two schools that are fully online. New Mexico Connections and Pecos. Yeah, and they perform horribly. And I've said that to them directly, so I don't mind saying that now. And they do, they just perform horribly, and it is what it is, and we'll address all that stuff at another time. And I think where sometimes kids really like the idea of hybrid, I don't think they're in a position to determine what's best for them. Maybe their parents like it too. I don't know. It just seems challenging. So I have a question regarding the video because something about it seemed very produced. And I'm wondering if you had an outside consultant. I mean, obviously there's the kids are the kids. They're in it. The photos of the smart lab, of the big lab where everyone's working, that's all yours. Was this production done outside by someone who does this professionally?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay, thank you. It was great. I mean, just the narrator too. It was good. It was really well done.
Well, thank you, sir. We did have a number. He was on campus multiple times to film. We held interviews with parents, with students, with governing council members. And he put the video together, and a big part of the decision for that was a lack of time.
Well, there's also time, and you don't necessarily have a studio and all this video equipment lying around. Yeah, I mean, it's good. Okay, so grad rate. When this said 16, I don't care about that. I know that's not real. You look at this and you say, oh, there's definitely an error here. You know, and but then we go from 56 to 61. Not good at all. And then the thing that I've brought up so often in these meetings, and also when I was on the school board for Santa Fe Public Schools for 9 years, and would bring up all the time, grad rates, schmad rates, proficiency. You know, you can graduate with Ds. Doesn't mean anything. You can graduate and end up having to take remedial everything. You drop out of college in 2 years. What have we done for you? We've failed you because you're so discouraged to having to take remedial classes, and also monetarily, the idea of going for another 4 years after this remedial work, it must be really disparaging and not disparaging, that's not the right word. Discouraging, definitely disparate. I don't know. Yes, for young people to have to essentially repeat things that we should have been doing for them all along. I come from the point of view, and the number of schools has been very trying this time around, where there's no time, right? I mean, I look at a school from the other day, and it was a school that mostly, and I was thinking to myself, the little kids, kinder to grade 5 years old to 8 years old, and I'm thinking, what's happening? What responsibility do we have to them to make sure that whatever school has their act together by the time they're 9 or 10? It just, you know, there's the state in general. I'm very impressed with what Arsenio, Secretary Romero said the other day. There doesn't seem to, I mean, they want to give, there doesn't seem to be an urgency. I've been here 33 years, so I can say that. I didn't, not some transplant that just came in who thinks he knows everything. There just doesn't seem to be an urgency around accountability and around, and I remember being in a luncheon, were you there, Tim? The luncheon when we met our Secretary Romero, and I remember asking a question about accountability, and he went on, and my question was two parts. It was accountability and consequence. He didn't answer the consequence part at all, because I don't believe that there is a consequence part in New Mexico. I don't think there really is at all. I think people say they want to be accountable until they're the ones held accountable. And so the consequence piece. So I'm looking at notes here, questions, concerned about the professional development. We had 2 schools already, and since this is all on the record, I can, you know, there was a middle college, which I was super duper impressed with at Gallup. And, you know, talk about dealing with just challenges in just being in Gallup-McKinley District. I mean, Chair Brower and I spoke about that. I won't go into detail what we said, but we'll just say what an amazingly challenging district to have to operate within. That completely does not support kids except their own. You know what I mean? But so middle college, and I bring this up because of math. Middle college and as well as NMSA. You talk about a tale of 2 cities, right? One's in Santa Fe, and granted, NMSA has really addressed and not corrected, because there was no wrongdoing, but addressed the lack of diversity within the school in the admissions process. They realized they were being perceived a certain way, and they went from being 63% white to being like 37%. It was just the fact that they addressed it head on was really impressive. And I went to one of their workshops around that, and it was just like, wow. And then with and what they did with math. So here they are. And I'm bringing this up as an example because I just want schools to succeed, right? Because I believe whether they're a charter or private or parochial or whatever district, they are all our kids. All of these kids are our kids. Okay, so at an MSA, they were like, you know, off the charts in, you know, science and English and everything else. But in the math, they were in the cellar. Not as bad as some schools in New Mexico, but they weren't doing nearly as well as they wanted to. So what did they do? They looked for grants. They really said, we have to be laser focused on this. They found some grants from and there's so many grants and scholarships that people don't even know exist. And I imagine NMSA is going to get all these calls because I keep mentioning them. It was specifically around math instruction. It's in New Hampshire and it's totally paid for. Doesn't have to come out of your operational. And but it's a whole different way of thinking around math, tutoring around math, meeting kids where they are, and almost giving modeling, not modeling, but allowing them to be to find an inspiration in math. I love math, and it's a result of certain teachers that I had in junior high school. But anyway, so taking advantage of those kinds of opportunities. And again, I'm looking at this note that says no professional development that or not extensive professional development, Ms. Gisbin mentioned. So one of the things I think of also when I think of the grad rate versus proficiency is like, I think of something we instituted. Unfortunately, it's no longer part of the thing up in Santa Fe. Oh, we're in Santa Fe. I don't have to say up in Santa Fe. Here is the portrait of a graduate. What do we want out of this person after they leave our place? We want them to be comfortable speaking in groups. We want them to be comfortable problem solving. We want them to be able to be in a leadership role. We want them, all of these different things, the portrait of a graduate. And for us, what that meant was this needs to be back mapped all the way down to kinder. But relative, I mean, obviously you're high school. So you can back map it all the way down to 9th grade and do everything you can to support whatever you believe is part of your portrait of a graduate. The remedial thing just scares the heck out of me. So concerned, I mean, I'm looking at this sheet here, and I know that the NDWA scores were higher, but that makes me think of when you had said earlier, these different groups are on track for this and on track for that. And sometimes I say when people say things like that, it's like hope is not a strategy, right? And I'm sorry, there's something bizarre happening right there. And one of the things, and there's been schools, not just this week, but that we've had to deal with over the last couple of years, where one of them that, you know, the attorney representing the school because of a decision we made, it's like God bless him, his argument was, please, please, please just give us one more chance, because they just, that's all they could do. That's all they could do, was try to reach, you know, our heartstrings, if you will. So I love hearing the kids that you brought into the video. And what I wrote down at that moment was happy versus district. And what that means to me is, it's like, and I'll use Santa Fe as the example, you know, when we were doing our 360, come on, man, where's the word? Our surveys. Thank you. You're knowing what I'm saying before I'm saying it. When our 360-degree surveys, so I'll take a school like Sweeney that was under the old system, an F system, but God bless them, they're trying hard, but they're, you know, it's not a very good school. And, but they love the district. I mean, they love their school, but they don't like the district. That's what I was trying to say. They love their little school and their school community, right? And it's solid. And, but man, they don't like the district. And so a lot of times I'll hear kids speak about their school, or parents speak about a school in a very positive light. But the bottom line in everything for me, it comes down to, are they learning? Can they write an essay? Can they fill out a job application and spell all the words correctly? Can they, like the attributes of a graduate, can they look a person, a potential employer in a hand and shake their hand and look them in the eye and properly introduce themselves? But there's all of these things that encompass like this whole person that we're trying to move on to whatever's next. And I love the dual enrollment. There's a note here that says that. And then whether or not they're going on to college, or one of you said they're going on a diesel engine.
Yes, sir.
You're not hearing a lot of questions here, but there's so much available that has absolutely nothing to do with college for kids. Certifications. Yeah, and it doesn't require college. And just, you end up being a great plumber in a couple of years. You start as your apprentice, journeyman, or whatever. You can be making 70, 80 grand in a few years. And boy, are you needed. And you don't need college for that. You do need math. You do need to be able to write contracts. You do need to be able to send out invoices and understand everything, right? And so my challenge is, are they learning? And while I think there are a lot of things that you're perhaps wanting to put into place, the school's been around, and I know maybe not all of you have not been around for the 22 years. Schools have been around long enough. And there was a school that came before us this last year that we've had talked about. And my sense was, you have had decades to be able to really look at this and address this. And even though there was plenty of blame to go around in the district and everything else, it's like, no, professional educators, man. And even the people that are helping support the board. And my question for the board, I'll have a question for the board around board oversight.
Commissioner Correa, did you ask a question already for them to respond?
Did I ask a question? I'm just ranting right now.
Not exactly, sir.
I do
It's
wanna
okay,
make sure,
but I'm wanting you to know where I am with this.
and I do
I
want to
do
make,
have something I'd like-
Ms. Moore, real quick, I just want to make sure, like, I do appreciate when we all, and I know I'm guilty of this too, we have comments, but I also want to make sure that we get to our questions so that
Please.
our team their team can answer.
Please.
If I could respond to your comments, sir, I believe what you're looking for is a future-ready graduate, which is what we're looking for as well. And there are areas that we're doing really well in that, and there are areas that we have room for improvement. So we're focused on the future, on how we can improve those things so that it's a more balanced, future-ready graduate.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. I don't remember the introductions, or you have board members here, right? Right, okay. What oversight? How long have you been on the board?
Chair Brower and Commissioners, my name is Deborah Burns, DeborahBurns. I've been on the board since the month before the last rechartering meeting, which is November of 2018. I'm a former president and I'm a parent of a graduate. And I'd like to speak to a number of issues raised by Commissioner Beck, Commissioner Gibson, and yourself, because I really believe that there's a lot of strengths of the school that have not been brought forward that are leaving you with a misimpression. So my son enrolled in 8th grade. He was a disengaged kid with an undiagnosed disability. He hated school, he thought he was stupid, and he was angry. And I remember he told the former head administrator, I don't do that. Not a formula for success. In the first year, the autonomy and yet the safety and the support he received by not being publicly humiliated in a classroom environment. He had to do 7th grade math and English, but nobody knew that as an 8th grader because he was behind. He found support and one-on-one encouragement, and within a year, he was student of the year of the high school. That recognition changed everything. He has serious processing disabilities, especially in math, but he gained so many supports over those years. He was never going to go to college. And we were really struggling to figure out how to prepare him for a self-sufficient lifestyle of success. By his junior year, he described himself as happy, content, wanting to be a good person, and doing very well in school. He discovered his artistic opportunities through the Smart Lab, the Walkums. He's an animator. Without any input from us, he discovered through Naviance the opportunity and with, I think, support of his students, a career in computer animation. He applied for 2 of the top 10 schools in the country, was admitted. He's 2/3 of his way through an accelerated Bachelor of Science in Computer Animation at Full Sail University. He got an A in his math, college math, because of the supports he learned at the school. He did not show proficiency at all on any of the standardized tests. And yet he is looking at trying to get hired on to do defense simulations at some place like Kirtland at 6 digits plus benefits with a security clearance. As a parent, you can understand why I'm invested in this school. And let me just explain some of the things the school did for me as a parent and for my son that you can't find. And I'm sure there's all kinds of blended learning environments. The fact is, one box does not, these students don't fit in every single blended learning environment. From day one, I got a text every morning at 3 a.m. showing me where he was academically in terms of progress and grades. There was an accountability. Every week, I got a real meaningful email from his sponsor teacher, which then he had gone untested because there was an 18 to 2-year queue to test him to get him on an IEP for years. That happened in the first year at SSLC. And that student, that support special ed teacher told us what was going on and how we could support him. And we could celebrate his progress at breakfast and at dinner daily. But we could also, he knew within that if he was really falling behind or if he had done very poorly on the test, that would come up at breakfast and dinner as well. Within a few years, he was a self-advocating, conscientious student who enjoyed the autonomy and being able to self-direct his days. It empowered him, and it empowers parents to be actively engaged with their students if they want to be. So I think that while he won't show up as a very good score other than having graduated on your matrix or the school's matrix, and look, it's a changing world. I'm a product of traditional education, and I excelled. I was an El Dorado student. I graduated from the academy. I got a BA in economics from Princeton and an MBA from NYU in finance. So I believe in standardized testing and traditional education. But the world that's opening up to these kids doesn't necessarily mean they test well. And yet there are future careers for them that can be very gainful and allow them to find fulfillment. And I just think that we haven't brought out the stories. Spotlight C&M students, ESL student that was their Spotlight student, 2 associate's degrees upon graduation. They came from SSLC. There are kids that have had 5 eye surgeries and thought they were going to go blind, and their parents are so grateful for SSLC getting their child through high school and graduating. And so those kinds of stories, I don't think get told very well, but I can tell you there are countless stories of student engagement and parent engagement going on because of the systems supporting the students and supporting the parents and the teacher, student, and parent working together. Not all parents are engaged, but they have every opportunity to be at the school. And so I hope that, I know that's anecdotal, but I'm passionate about this school. There's magic going on in engaging with these students. No bullying, no cliques. Every teacher knows every student. And I hear if my kid's been hanging out with some guys cursing outside the doors, just, kid behavior. And I don't think that story is being told. And yet it's an environment for some students where they will thrive. And I'm very grateful to the school. And I consider, I don't know what would have happened to my son if it hadn't been for SSLC. And I think you could line this whole room with parents that feel a similar gratitude for the school, for their student, even if it doesn't show up in the standardized tests. So I appreciate your listening. But there are countless stories like my son's, and we have countless kids that need that kind of environment to turn things around for them. And I think SSLC has done a great job with kids walking in the door that are not destined for success when they walk in the door, as well as the extremely gifted kids who have the ability to excel and, you know, get 2 associate's degrees by the time they graduate, to help them on their journey in life. So I thank you for your indulgence.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. I just love moments, you know, when you, those kinds of moments, you know, thank you very much. The reason I had the board question was that what I went on with about opportunities with other schools and oversight and everything, and opportunities missed, and how many opportunities are going to let be missed, how many years are we going to let go by, how many kids end up not getting what they need, and how many kids are we going to fail again, and again. I am so grateful for you. And what I would ask from you specifically is more oversight. So if there's going to be some kind of plan, and I don't even know where I'm going to land on this now, if there's going to be, you kind of were getting a sense of where I was going to land. And, you know, honestly, the sense I got from reading everything here and from hearing the sunny disposition from CSD, sometimes it makes me think, you know, are we ever going to close a school ever, or non-renew? I know you took a great exception of that, or non-renew a school ever? Because my feeling is, in having been on this commission for 3 years, is I could open a charter, and you know what? I've got a guaranteed job for life. Because what it takes to non-renew a school or close a school, it's an insurmountable amount of obstacles. And then the secretary, and then inevitably district court. You know, and I don't want it to be that way. And I know that others in education and others, you know, think New Mexico. I don't know if you read the report. I would ask them to send it to you. They were very concerned about charters that are allowed to exist, that have been allowed to exist for decades, that are just horrible schools. And why are they here? Why are they there? Because we constantly renew them. We constantly give them another chance. There's a new administrator that comes with a new plan, and we say, okay, let's just see how this works out. 5 years later, it's like, oh, we have a new administrator. Listening to you, Deborah, was profound for me. Thank you. And
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions at this stage?
my question is, because I'm going to suggest it, would you be willing to accept 3 years with conditions as opposed to 5? Yeah, I know you guys don't like that either, but that's too bad. It's we're the elected officials, we're the commission, we decide what happens with charter schools. Is that something you would consider? If your attorney were here right now, they'd say no. You know, but is that something you would consider? 3 years with conditions? Is one of you the attorney, and I don't know that you are? Okay.
Chair Brower and Commissioner Carrillo, respectfully, I don't feel like the school deserves that, but we'll obviously agree with whatever the commission finds. I think the graduation data is really disappointing, the lack of being able to have validated it. And I just want to say, you have a board that is very engaged, very focused on opportunities for improvement. But I want to just put you in my shoes as a board member. I'm a finance person, a high-level finance person. Until we got a new business manager and got a new customized course on finance for schools, I spent 2.5 years not understanding the finances of the school. So when you have a governing council that comes in, we have done 12 major things in the last 5 years, some of which were not in that presentation. We came in, we overhauled the bylaws. That's a process. We started the LPA process to buy the schools so that we could make the necessary physical improvements to enhance education. I have 11 items on my list. We had to learn, we had to get a new business manager.
I'm
And,
just gonna ask you to be just a little bit brief.
okay,
Okay, just to make your point and
We-
move on.
I'm a Baldridge examiner, if that means anything to you, quality organization manager. We instituted strategic planning because the feedback loop is necessary for continuously improving education. There is a monthly dashboard that gets reported quarterly to the board. The administration and teachers are setting goals for improving education every year, and they're reporting out to us constantly, the PBIS and various other things. And there's dashboards it's SMART goals, and you have to meet them. Is there room for improvement? Yes. I have no doubt that there's room for improvement. But the other thing that's happened is the mix of our students has changed dramatically over the last 5 years. We were a school that had no IEPs in 2014. And I think the staff has done an amazing job of continuously developing new ways to meet a totally transformed student body, which I think it should be. It's a representative student mix, which it wasn't 5 years ago. And I'm really proud of the amazing results they've gotten academically in equity, in focusing on all the subgroups, as well as focusing on ways to improve. Is it the results you'd like to see? No, and we are going to commit ourselves as a board. We even had it in our minutes a couple of months ago on our self-evaluation as a board. Now is the time to dig in on academic outcomes. We feel like our financial house is in order, our physical plant is in order. We've got strategic planning. We have a new head administrator who is just hitting the ground running. You know, I think that we deserve to be rechartered for another 5 years, knowing that we're committed to getting those numbers to becoming a spotlight school. It's just, it's hard. It's a steep learning curve as a, and you just, the Vistas stuff was, a shock. And we'll just stay at it. But I would respectfully, I believe that the school deserves to be recharted for 5 years, but we obviously will accept whatever the commission decides.
I understand.
Thank you.
And I know this, I know you get frustrated with time sometimes, to which I'd also say it is what it is. And so I often compare things to athletics. And like if a football team, if you've got a new high school coach coming in with a team that's horrible, give them 4 years. If by the end of the 4 years, you're not at least breaking 500 or going to at least provisional playoffs, he's out. And, general manager in pro sports, 3 years, out. Sales manager for a hotel, because came from hotels. You're not turning things around, out. There's no time, to give everyone the chance. And for me, I understand, I empathize with sitting where you're sitting, hearing someone like me saying 3 with conditions. And it's like, you don't believe in us. You don't believe, whatever it might be. I hear everything you're saying, and I do believe. And I'm impressed with you. I'm very impressed with you, and I want you to be a lot of oversight as a board and have others do the same sort of a thing. And I'm going to say this, and it's very frank, and it is what it is. For me, it's 3 with conditions, or it's not at all. And it's not, and it's because the English and math are so low. They're not just low, they're so low. And so I want to see you come back every year to us and show us what's going on. That's what I want. The same way a sales director would come to me and say, you said you're turning this restaurant around. Show me the numbers, or you're out. That's what he'd tell me. Okay, I get that. Thank you. That is all for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Creo. Commissioner Manus, thank you for your patience. I do just want to direct the commission if they're, just in terms of time, and yes, I am time oriented. And I do not apologize for that, just because I want to make sure we're all staying on track, and that's part of my role. Um, I just want to make sure that we're asking questions, we're putting a premium on that, and we're not repeating any questions that may not have been asked already. You can do what you want to do, but I just want us to be cognizant of that. And that we keep our stories to a limited amount, just given what time it is, and that we do have decisions to be made today. Do that if you want to listen to that, that's great. If you don't, I guess you can not listen to that, but that's where my mind is. Commissioner Manus.
Commissioner Manus, thank you. I don't want to beat a dead horse, and I want to just get direct to my questions. I wanted to ask, because I know you had mentioned enrollment and some of the issues that you believe that you have with proficiencies was due to an increase in enrollment with students with disabilities and economically disadvantaged students. And so I really wanted to, while you've had an increase in enrollment with those particular student populations, you've had an overall decrease in enrollment. You had mentioned that. What do you attribute your decrease in enrollment over the past couple of years?
Thank you, Commissioner Manus. Quite honestly, first and foremost, it's COVID. As an online learning, as a blended learning environment, as we've talked about, we lost a number of students during that year of remote learning during the school closures. We lost a whole bunch of students for a GED, and they weren't going to another high school. They weren't looking for a different program. They were done, period. And we lost a number of them to a GED. We are working with the marketing company on rebranding our school. We're working with parents to offer tours and make sure that the students that are enrolling with us understand what they're signing up for. By being better at communicating exactly what we offer to families, we're hopeful that we will get the students that are going to thrive in that very unique environment. Every student is welcome, but not all of them are the best fit for that specific style of learning.
Great, thank you for that. And I have a couple of follow-ups that, based on your responses and just kind of overall related to enrollment. I know that there's approximately 86% of your student population that are in person at least some of the time. And then it also had stated about 6% are fully remote. What for you is an ideal breakdown of your student population, those who are in person, those who would be completely online? What would an ideal breakdown for you be, considering that you're thinking of recruiting this, marketing firm to help increase your enrollment? What would you expect to see that to be, that breakdown in the future?
We would expect to see more of our students in person. We did not have a remote program prior to COVID. We did have the blended model where every student, while they're learning online, they also had to come to campus. We only offered the remote program following COVID because we saw some of our students were so successful with it. It's not advertised that we have a remote program. Families have to ask about it. And again, we meet with them. They have to have passing grades. They have to demonstrate progress. It's not just you can sign up for remote and we won't watch you. Most of our students, and what we're focusing on with recruitment, is continuing to increase the number of students that are coming to campus. Did you?
Okay, good.
Add to that, Mr.
I like that you're wanting to have more students in person, because I think that that's important. I do have a question surrounding the in person at least some of the time. What is considered at least some of the time?
Our ninth grade students are on campus most days. We meet on campus Monday through Thursday, and most of our ninth grade students are there every day, Monday through Thursday, the entire day. As students get older, they're allowed more flexibility in their schedule. So it's dependent on family and student need. Each schedule is individually designed for students, and that's based partially on their demonstrated proficiency, their demonstrated need, family concerns. Maybe they're trying to accommodate a job. Maybe they're taking dual enrollment classes at CNM. So I don't have an exact breakdown for you because it's so individualized for each student. In general, the younger you are, the more often you're here. And as you move into junior and senior, they're on campus less often, but they're enrolled in dual credit, or they have a job, they're doing other things.
Okay, that helps me get a better understanding of what that is. Moving on from enrollment, I know we've talked about graduation rate, and you mentioned it as a deficiency. I really wanted to focus on your graduation rate for students with disabilities, because it is so much lower than all the others. I can't recall that other commissioners brought this up, but I believe it was at 5% whenever I was looking at some of these and these graphs. And so I just wanted to get an idea from you. Why do you think your graduation rate is so poor for students with disabilities, and what are you going to do to address that?
Sir, I'm sorry, I'm confused by that question because I don't believe our graduation rate is poor. I don't know where that number came from, that only 5% of our students with disabilities are graduating. I don't have that number right in front of me. I apologize, I don't know it off the top of my head, but we're seeing improved outcomes for students with disabilities, not decreased outcomes.
Yeah, and I'd have to go back to what I was looking at. I pulled up a whole bunch of tabs on my screen. So let me go to where I was looking at that at. I believe it was in part A, the revised part A. That, let's see here. It was the 5-year graduation. This was your 2020 cohort that it showed 5% there, and so it just kind of struck me whenever I saw that number.
Commissioner Manis, I see what you're looking at. I have a copy of that here. I don't have an answer for that. What I can tell you is that if you look at the 4-year cohort in 2021, that the students with disabilities were at 61%. And I would point out that we know that there are problems with the graduation data in Vistas going back at least to 2020, because as we were investigating this problem, I found my own son, who graduated on time in 2020, listed on the 6-year graduation report for 2022. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, whenever I saw that, it was just kind of like, whoa, what's going on here? So that's why I asked.
I understand.
And my last question, I think it's been kind of, brought up in a roundabout way in responses to Commissioner Carrillo, Commissioner Gibson, Commissioner Beck, the questions that they had, but I want to hear maybe again if it's a repeat, but what specifically are you doing or planning to do to turn your declining proficiency rates around, specifically in the math? Really, I think that's the worst of them, but what specifically are you doing to turn that around?
As I mentioned earlier, we are implementing direct instruction classes. We are offering additional supports for students to supplement their online learning. We have classes designed to accompany the algebra and geometry classes, so their 1st and 2nd year classes, to offer additional support. We've offered a basic skills remediation class where hopefully we can get them that functionality they need before they get to college and have to take remediation classes. So we're working to backfill gaps that they may have in their learning in math. And I was very intrigued by the grant that Commissioner Carrillo mentioned, several grants. I wrote some of that down so I can look into it, where we can look at some additional supports or tutoring programs that would help boost that proficiency.
Some of the classes that you offer, just for clarification, the direct instruction, you're talking about like a lecture style class with somebody in front of the classroom working through different things. Currently, some of those classes may just be through the videos on Edgenuity.
Their core class is through Edgenuity, but those support classes that I'm referencing are direct with a live teacher at the front of the classroom. They may use some of the Edgenuity content, but they're not watching a video in class with the live teacher. They're practicing skills. They're pulling out manipulatives. They're going back and finding, okay, this is a struggle for you guys. Let's go try it this way, and trying different methods of presentation to help students understand and solidify their skills.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate the responses to my questions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Manus. I just have a few questions. Thank you very much for coming in today. Thank you for the anecdotes. I think anecdotes matter to us. We live in those. Those make the numbers real children, real people. And I just want to make sure you know that. That's what we care about. We care about the young people. But we also know that data doesn't lie. It can tell different stories, but we also have to work within the data and the trends that we see that contribute to our whole understanding. And so anecdotes plus data helps us to become an informed commission to make decisions. Two anecdotes that I just think about. I think about Marisol, the one young woman who shared in person today or in Zoom today, the way she talked about the dual credit or the getting credit at C&M. Boy, I tell you what, I love that idea. I shared this recently with another school about how I personally feel that high schools who offer dual credit systems where kids can punch their ticket, like, changes their lives. Only 24% of your kids are doing that now. Why is that? Why isn't it 60% or 70%? Because I think that's something that, like, as a dual credit school that offers blended learning, there should be more opportunities for that. And so I want to know why that's not the case, because I would feel like the other data matters to me. But if I'm honest with myself and the commission, if I saw that number being 80% kids taking, young people taking credits and getting credits, I could be so forgiving of some of the other data points, because I see that translating into lifelong outcomes and pathways to prosperity. And so why only 24%, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders?
Eileen Johnson again, Commissioner Bauer and other commissioners. I can only talk about my particular situation. I have a sophomore in high school. He started off at Southwest Preparatory, and we started Southwest Secondary, but after being online for 3 years during COVID, right, he really needed a more social situation because he's a social child. We thought, when we started him in 4th grade and ready to graduate through this, that it was going to be fantastic for him, but we decided last year that it wasn't. So he moved on to a different charter school, but I personally love this school so much that I'm still a board member because I believe in this curriculum. What I think we can do better is to educate the people, the parents, right, and their families, what this school is, and make sure that they understand what they're signing up for, and that it is the right thing for them. Now, despite having two engaged parents, we're not positive that he's going to graduate on time. There is only so much hand-holding that you can do with the child. I'm going for my master's. His dad has his bachelor's. We're engaged. We're working with him, but he has to also find his passion, which I think is probably not inside a four-walled building. But one of the things that he really enjoyed was the Smart Lab, and the IEP system that Southwest has it's fantastic. It changed his education from when he started at APS and then at Southwest, both of them. I just really think that it was a big game changer for us, and we're still working on him. We're still hoping he'll graduate on time, but we might be one of the statistics that adds to Southwest not having a perfect 4-year graduation rate. And it isn't because we're not trying, and it isn't because Southwest isn't trying. Thank you.
So again, Chair Bauer and commissioners, my son tried for 2 years to qualify for dual enrollment. He never quite hit. He did additional study. He was always within 3 or 4 points of getting the minimum score to be able to be qualified for dual enrollment. So it speaks to proficiency at being able to qualify for dual enrollment. He would have loved to have done dual enrollment, but and he had a lot of support from his teachers. He did a lot of online additional work, and his scores just never changed. And it was very discouraging for him, but he found a path in spite of that.
And I would tell you, Chair Brower, that not every student is in those numbers. I'd love to see 80% involved in dual enrollment as well. Not every high school student is ready for college classes. Not every high school parent wants their child on a college campus. So while we continue to promote that, we offer the AccuPlacer on our campus so that students can take it in a familiar environment. We've actually researched offering CNM classes by our instructors at our campus to help students transition to that. And we don't currently have an instructor that would meet CNM's qualifications for that, but it's something that we've checked into. To address the career readiness, we've also expanded that Smart Lab program with the certifications. So if a student is not enrolled in dual credit, they still have the opportunity to pursue a career or things that they can put on their resume by what they're doing in the Smart Lab. Maybe they can get certified in MakerBot. One of those students you saw a picture of last year was not only a MakerBot operator, but a MakerBot technician that he was certified for through Smart Lab. So we offer multiple pathways for students to enrich their education.
Thank you for that. I just want to share, I'm not going to go into detail about my background, but I grew up on a dairy farm. I grew up poor, did not have teachers who ever thought I would go to college. And so I think that having that expectation is really important. And that promotion, as you shared, I think is really important because there are, maybe it's not English and math. I don't know enough about the details about how dual credit and what course. I know the AccuPlacer is there, but I also think there's opportunities for certification programs at CNM and other things that probably do not require that. And so I just challenge you all. Yes, I get like some parents don't want their kids to go to college. I've heard that millions of times. I heard it. You don't want to go to college. I just think that we're making decisions for someone as opposed to letting them make those decisions based on the way that we are expecting something from them. And I'm fully aware that there are other options other than college, but I think that college should not be taken off the table for our children.
Great.
The other anecdote that I wanted to share that's going to help me with the question is there was a young man and I think he meant this in a kind-hearted way. There was a young man who said that he really likes that his schedule works around his school schedule, not the other way around. And I think, what world do you live in that what are you going to do? I mean, unless you're going to be a YouTuber or I don't know what else you do remotely, you have to know how to, I get what he was saying, but I do suggest that like, my question is, I understand there's opportunities for choice and our schools are inherently offering choice for our children. You're offering different types of blended learning and hybrid approaches, ranging from completely remote versus being in person. And I really appreciate that. But it raises what little hair I have up a little bit when I hear a child like, I really love this school because I get to make my own choices about my schedule and then work school around it because no work-related thing works that way in the world. That's just not the world in which we live in. And yes, there are a few people, but I'm going to roll my eyes and say that, yes, there are some people who can work remotely, but most of us have to work in person. And we don't have a chance to like make our own schedule. I wonder how that bleeds into students seeing the high expectations that you all inherently have for them to complete their stuff, sometimes not on their own schedule. It has to be on the school schedule because if you're having support sessions for a student who might be falling behind or who might need remediation, we're going to wait for them to make a decision on when they're going to come into the school to talk to the teacher. No, it can't be that way. You have to have boundaries, and students have to learn those boundaries and understand this is inherently important for your success, even though it might be painful to like what you wanted to do, Thursday at 2:00. So I just love to hear a little bit of like with that student in mind. And I know it's not as extreme as I somewhat am making the picture, but I have to ask, how do you work with young people when, being able to make your own schedule is a privilege. It's not a God-given right. And so how do you approach that when students do need things that they need to take their medicine when they're not meeting the standard?
Sir, I can answer that very easily, and I apologize that we did not make that clear. Students design their schedule with their parent and their teacher at the start of the semester. That means you're going to be here on Monday and Tuesday. On Wednesday, you're going to go do this other thing, so you're not going to come to class, but you're going to be here on Thursday, whatever it looks like. It is designed, it is set. They don't get to pick every day whether or not they feel like going to school. And when they have that scheduled time where they're not on campus, where they're accessing their courses remotely, it comes with demonstrated success. One of the policies we have is that if you are not making progress in your classes, you get some of that flexibility revoked. I just last month had a conversation with a remote student, and I had to pull out their remote contract. I said, I cannot let you stay remote because you're not making progress in your classes. And we've created a schedule, and she's now back on campus. So the flexibility comes with proven success, and we do yank it back when necessary.
Great. Thank you for that. I will support renewal when we get to a stage when we're making decisions. I will support conditions as well, because I think there's opportunities for the school to grow, and to have specific conditions is good for you, good for us, good for our relationship. Most importantly, good for your students to show a good path to change management and where you inherently know things need to change. Commissioner Beck.
Last question. You said that the students are there for 4 days. Are none of the students on campus on Friday?
No, sir. On Fridays, they access their courses remotely.
Okay, and you have an hour to an hour and a half every other week for PLC on Friday?
Roughly that amount of time, sir. It may be longer than that. Well, on Fridays, we also send out those sponsor emails where every parent gets a personalized email about their student's progress. They make the connections with families where they make those personal phone calls and hold conferences. We hold a lot of IEPs on Friday. We have staff meetings on Friday.
Okay, okay, that was my question. Thanks.
Commissioner, do you like to?
I'd like to make a motion, Chair, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay. I move that the Public Education Commission approve the application for Southwest Secondary Learning Center for a 5-year term, 2024 to 2029, with the following conditions. A, that the school's record of performance demonstrates improved student academic growth, beginning with specific immediate action. The specific immediate action to improve student academic growth consistent with state standards, particularly in ELA, math, and graduation growth, will be outlined in the school's negotiated performance framework. And B, that the school identify a robust strategic educational plan to improve student outcomes and appropriate staff professional development related to content instruction. First annual report will confirm completion of each item listed above, or if either concern is not corrected, will identify the uncorrected, unsatisfactory performance that will be subject to further PEC action.
Second.
Wait, we have a second.
Second.
We have a second of that motion. So now we're in conversation about this motion. And again, I just want to remind the commission, this is not opening conversation again to the school, but we really are only having conversation about this specific motion. Commissioner Beck.
I truly understand Commissioner Carrillo's idea of the 3-year. I fully understand that. But I believe that with some concerted effort on your behalf, on the behalf of the team here, that they will be able to make certain improvements. And I just think, as a point of reference, I think that charter schools learning from each other could be a huge benefit in many cases, and this would be one where working with the PCSNM and working and learning from other charter schools that do remote and do it well could really be beneficial. Might take some stuff from. Thank you.
Commissioner Beck. Commissioner Ingham.
Yeah, it's concerning to me about the data that sorry, it's concerning to me about the data that is for sure, inaccurate, and that can we have the same expectation that we get, accurate data from PED in the same time frame? So if there are issues with the data that they were, given, that they can rectify that in the same time frame. Thank you.
Commissioner Gibson, I turned right.
I know. So partly in response to that, I have faith and a significant amount of confidence in the performance framework that we've created, so that even if we don't get the full data that we need from the state, we're going to be able to put in and use the performance framework that's going to get us, I believe, the information we need. I think that was part of the work that we engaged in, was to make sure that it didn't matter what we were getting from outside sources, that we were going to be able to get through our own processes, the information that we needed. So I have confidence moving forward with the performance framework and the annual report, that process that we've created, that we will be able to make a quality decision with the information that'll be gathered for us. So that's why I can support 5 years, because, and it's specifically outlined in there that the uncorrected unsatisfactory, it'll be immediately addressed by the commission, most likely in the intervention ladder.
Okay, I just, for me, sometimes when you, not having data at all is not as bad as having data that's wrong. And when it's wrong, then I lose confidence in the whole deal, and it puts me in a place where it's difficult to make a judgment. So it's very disconcerting to me to have inaccurate data.
I hear you, but the data that we'll be relying on more is data that's being directed from like their assessment portal, so that there should be less opportunity for error in that.
Other comments?
Sure. So as I understand, oh, sorry.
Commissioner Creel?
Thank you. So as I understand it, the data problem was really the grad rate thing. It wasn't the other. And that's as I understand it. And I hear what you're saying. We got, that's a whole another massive issue, right, that we're dealing with. So I would like to offer what I know would be an unfriendly amendment, and that is to change the 5-year to 3-year with conditions. Is there do we have to hear a second on that, and then he can accept it or not, or how does that work? If I know it's going to be unfriendly.
I think it's friendly, is the person who made the amendment, right? And then we have to say.
But does it have to be a second to the unfriendly amendment to have him consider it? I don't know procedurally.
I believe that the person who made it can. Yeah.
Oh, he's just the one that's unfriendly. No, I'm just kidding. That's cool. Okay, so relative to the motion, I totally disagree with you guys. So it's
Commissioner Creel, did you want to hear his answer or no?
Okay, respectfully, would you entertain an amendment for 3 years?
I respectfully would not. Thank you.
Respectfully, I respectfully understand your answer. So I disagree with all of you. I think 3 years is plenty of time. And the thing is, and I think we all know this from looking at past experience of the schools we renewed 5 years ago and what we went through, the horrific experience that all of us had in June, July, August, and early September, that once you agree to something, I don't care how many things, you can check in monthly. That it's near impossible. Because then, yeah, you go to the intervention ladder and you say, hey, you didn't do this. And then they come, and this school that I'm referring to it's La Tierra that I'm referring to over the year. They kept coming back with a modify this and a modify that, but we're doing this and we're doing that. And I'm not exaggerating. You could look at, if you really want to make yourself nauseous, you could look at the year's worth of video. We just, once it's done, it's done. And, and I'm not saying you won't. I'm not saying, there's no guarantee that you're going to be the board member in 2 years, and there's no guarantee that you're going to be the head administrator in 2 years. Life happens, right? But there's nothing we can do about it. Nothing. And no matter what we use the intervention ladder for, we saw how the intervention ladder was abused with that at last school that I mentioned. And that's why I suggest 3 years. And to me, 3 years makes such perfect sense because in the private sector, and that's where I come from, if it wasn't obvious, in the private sector, you don't get 5 years. No one gives you 5 years. You get that first year, then they come back with, okay, you're on probation now for the second year. This is what we need to see. Only in the public sector. And do you get that kind of room to constantly fail and have your job? And that's the last I'll say. And I was very clear, and I told you how I felt, that for me, it was 3 years with conditions or none at all. So I'm not going to support the motion. While hope is not a strategy, in 5 years, I hope that I'm here, and you come back, and it's like, oh my God, look what they've done. How can we learn from that? But again, for me, it's about 3 years, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Carrillo. Commissioner Beck.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I fully understand your logic. I get it. The one thing that also stood out to me a little bit is the shock, of course, for me was the Vista report, as the shock was for everybody. And as a high school, to your point, that's 11th grade SAT. That's your number. And so the other data wasn't great, but it wasn't awful. And so I hope that I'm alive and here in 5 years to be able.
I'll second that.
To be able to well, it's about my what do you call it, average life expectancy in 5 years. But I hope that you've heard. I'm sure they've heard us and our deep concerns, and I'm sure they're going to take action. Thank you.
Seeing no other comments, I'm going to go ahead and take a roll call vote. Here we go. And I'm secretary, vice chair, and chair, I guess, right now. So Commissioner Beck.
Yes.
Commissioner Kloster-Schulich.
Yes.
Commissioner Ingham.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibson.
Yes.
Commissioner Manus.
Reluctantly, yes.
Commissioner Carrillo.
No.
Commissioner Taylor.
Yes.
And Commissioner Brower says yes. So the motion passes. Renewal with conditions, 7-1. Thank you all very much. Best wishes. We look forward to working with you. I know, as Commissioner Beck mentioned, you heard us loud and clear. You know what our call to arms is. You know that we need to work together to continue continuous improvement. And we thank you for your time and safe travels home.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I do have a base that our Smart Lab students printed for you in our 3D printers. I have one for each of you. Would it be all right if I left them at your desk, or would you like me to leave them on the table?
100%. Thank you so much. I was wondering about that. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, we waited till the end.
Commissioners, we are at 1:02, so we are a little bit behind. What would we like to do in terms of break? Do you want a half hour? Would that be okay?
45 minutes, because even
45
going across I mean, people understand that just like committees across the street,
sure.
Time,
Commissioner Carrillo, 1:45. 1:45? Sure. Okay, 1:45, we'll come back. Thank you.